Hi, I'm Mark Steelman. Check this out. This is Dungeons & Lasers Fantasy Core Set by Archon Studios. It is miniature gaming scenery, but it's completely modular and it breaks down so that it can go in a fairly small space. That is exactly what I was looking for. So this one here, they had a bunch of different ones, but this one is like their basic dungeon, okay? The pieces look like this. If you can see that, there are wall tiles and there are floor tiles. And when they come in the box, they look like this, okay? They're just black, I mean, not black, but like dark gray plastic, right? And they are on sprues, so if you're thinking about getting it, just realize you're gonna need to get some pliers and snip them off. And I may do a video sometime about how to do that, but that's not what this video is about. I really want to for you to kind of go through this with me, and I'm gonna paint it. I'm gonna talk to you about why I'm doing certain things, showing you some brush techniques that I've learned. These are not super complicated. This is really, the techniques I'm showing can really be done by just about anyone. I've been doing this for a while. I'm not an amazing painter, but this isn't the first thing that I've painted. I'll put it like that. And I'm really looking forward to this. I'm gonna be a little risky with this. I'm gonna take some risks with it because I want it to be fun to watch while I paint it. And hopefully you'll be entertained and maybe you'll like what I end up with at the end. All right, here we are in my junky old basement. I want to talk to you a little bit about priming. Okay, here are some of the pieces that I've primed. I did it already. These are all dry. I used this paint right here, Citadel Wraithbone. It's this off-white color that you can see right here. This black bag is plastic, white plastic, and that is the color of the paint. And so this was the original color of the plastic. It was this dark gray color, or this is the same color as it. And now I've made it be a much lighter color as my base coat. When I'm doing miniatures, I usually like to use white because paint is translucent, okay? Which is to say that paint is kind of see-through. So if you put a blue over black, you're going to have a dark blue. And if you put a blue over white, you're going to have like the purest color that blue paint was. Like it's going to be exactly the color that was in the bottle, right? So I prefer to know what color I'm going to do. Obviously, there are many people that like to prime in black. There are reasons to prime in black, one of which is if you really just want all your stuff to look really dark. Another thing is people say that if they miss a spot, maybe they're not very comfortable with their paints, and they feel like if they miss a spot, it'll just be black, and they would rather that than having to worry about little white spots on their paint job down in the cracks and whatever. So it really is up to you, but I personally, and I hope I didn't just hit my mic and make a noise, but I personally just prefer to use off-white or white. Now I'm using off-white here because my miniatures are all primed in white, and I want all my miniatures to be a little lighter than all my backgrounds. I want them to stand out just slightly from the background because the background is supposed to be in the background, okay? So now, when you are spray painting, in case you haven't done this before, you don't want to start spraying right on the thing that you're trying to spray. You want to start over to the side and then sweep across. Okay, you want to start, because otherwise when it first comes out, it can spatter, and you don't want it to spatter onto your finished work. So you're going to get it going good, and you're going to come across and you're going to stop, and you're going to do it again, right? You can go back and forth, but what tends to happen when I try to do that is that I stop short, and then I get a really dark, thick place right there, so you don't get it as even. So you want to start and stop off the work so that you don't get it too thick, okay? And then on these, I had to wait for them to dry. It takes about 15 minutes to dry, and then I flipped it over and did the other side. All right, let's talk about color. This is the Kickstarter page. Here is the dungeon tiles that we will be painting, or I'm going to be painting. And you can see that they've got some of them that are in green with like some grays, and then we've got some that are in brown, or kind of a sandy brown. Let's look at some, let's Google dungeon. We try to do images. And so finally I kind of decided that I was starting thinking about like Scooby-Doo and Masters of the Universe, and somewhere in my brain, like purple kept kind of saying dungeons. I think I want my dungeon to be purple. A couple of reasons for that. One is I just kind of skew away for things that are supposed to be magical. I don't want them to look like this world, because this is not supposed to be taking place in this world. This is, you know, parallel dimension territory. And I also wanted it to just be unique. I didn't want to just do it the same old, same old. I wanted to be a little more daring than that. So this is really my inspiration picture right here. This dungeon. Now I'm not going to ask you to watch while I paint every single one of these pieces, but I did try to pull out, because there was a lot of pieces in this box. I did try to pull out a few pieces, one of each kind of piece, so that you could see my techniques when I did them. All right, so got some purple. And what I want to do is I want to get these things to be purple, but I don't want the down in the cracks to be purple. This is going to be like my mortar color, okay? So I'm going to start off by just putting this purple on here. And you don't want to put that big gloppy purple right there on there. You want, let me see if I can get that in front of the camera. You don't want it to be on there like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to put it down like this. Of course, I shouldn't have done that because I can't lay this back down there. But you want to kind of, this is called setting the brush. And you don't want your brush to be, right now my brush is super wet. You see how that purple is receding right there? I don't want it to be that wet. So I've got this napkin here that I've been painting into. And this is some stuff. I'm going to show you later some other things I've been doing. But right now, this is where I'm at. And I'm just going to this is a stiff brush. I think this brush is so old that I can barely read it, but I think right there it says it's a China brush. And anybody that knows what they're doing is going to tell you you don't want to use a China brush with this kind of work. But what I wanted was a stiff brush, because I don't want to get this purple down into the cracks, right? I want it to just be on the surface. So I'm going to just kind of rake it across here like that. Okay? And I'm going to try to do this kind of quickly. Now this is exactly, remember what I was telling to you earlier about translucent paint? You can see good and well that this is, you can see through it. I mean, you can just tell where you can see through it. And yes, I could put this on here. If you put enough coats, then you will end up with a solid dark purple, but that's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm wanting it to be, I'll lay this down. See if I can get a space here. I'm wanting this to be kind of an interesting pattern of color, okay? So now I'm going to do the next one. Okay, I skipped ahead because painting these things purple ended up taking like 20 minutes, and I just did enough that you could get the idea. Now that they're all purple, I think I want to add a second color to this stone. Now this stone, this is supposed to be some otherworldly stone, but if you see a lot of if you go look at pictures online of stones, you will see that they're not just one color. And there are some really interesting and pretty stones that are just kind of two-tone stones. So I'm going to make a second tone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this paint right here called Snakebite Leather. You can't buy this one anymore. The one that's replaced it is called Baylor Brown. It's the same stuff. It's just, I haven't opened this one yet because I'm still got a little bit left in this one, and I'm going to use it first, okay? But this is going to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this really soft brush. This is not like the China brush. This is like super soft. It might be camel hair, or it might be a synthetic. It just says Crafter's Choice is the brand, but who knows? The fact is, and I got me some new water because you don't want to mix your water is getting paint in it, and you need to replace it every once in a while. So I went from purple, I'm going to this kind of yellowish brown, and I just got new water. So let's get started. Now, when you're doing this kind of thing, you don't want a million colors because this is supposed to be the background, right? You want to just have a couple of colors. So now that I've kind of committed to using this color as my second color, this is going to be, I'm going to use it in some other things. So what I want to do is we're going to put this there. Now, right here, I'm going to make these, I'm going to bring these details out. One of my goals, and whenever I'm painting anything, is to try to bring out the details. And this particular wall has some nice detail. So I'm just going to go around and I'm going to bring out this wall. There you go. Now, all right, let's take a look at the other side. Now, I'm going to get a bigger brush. I'm going to go back to this brush. And what I want to do is I just want to bring this tone up a little bit. And it's too watery. You see how watery that is? That's not going to do it all. All right, so get some of the water out of here and get some more paint. I'm going to put my paint down here near that water so that I can try to I didn't mean to do that. So here's a little trick I do when I get color, like the lighter color down in the crack when I didn't mean to, is I dry the brush out real good. I take a second brush that's clean, and then I get the paint out of the crack with the clean brush. I've got a nice bluish gray here. I am going along the top edge because this is a wall and you're going to be seeing the top edge more than you'll see most of this wall. So the top edge of those bricks need to be the right color. All right, so now, nice colors. Let's see what else I got. See if there's anything on this that I want to make. Oh, I know. Let's make these stones this gray color. And I'm going to make that, you see that wood? I'm going to make that wood be a brown color in a little bit. We'll get to that. All right, so I'm going to do this brick, and I'm going to use this Khorne Red. Now, as you can see, I kind of filled in the, unfortunately filled in the cracks there a little bit, but it's gonna be all right. I don't think that when I've got the whole dungeon built, anybody's gonna really pay that much attention to it. You gotta kind of have a certain patience with yourself when you're doing this. Otherwise, you're going to suck all the fun out of it. And again, I'm going to overlap the color a little bit. Now here's something that I can kind of share with you. Notice how I'm laying one hand on top of the other and I've got myself braced against the table. That can really give you a lot more stability. You know, I've got my hand kind of, my elbows are on the table so that my arms don't move when I don't want them to move. And then my hands, that one of them that's holding the work is holding it as still as I can. And then I take the other hand and I touch it to this hand so that I don't move it while I'm painting. I'm just trying to create something that I can paint precisely. How's that? Pretty good, right? Nice variety. These doors that open were not part of the core set. They were an add-on. What I'm doing is painting with a really wet paint. Like this is the opposite of what I was doing with the surfaces that I've been doing up till now, because I want it to be darker down in the cracks of the wood than on the surface of the wood. Also, when I do this, the bars I'm going to assume were metal and then were painted, because it seems like in a setting like this, that's how you would keep them from rusting. I'm going to assume they were painted black, so I've got black paint on them and rust on that, using the same yellow-brown I've been using for other things. All right, now this is where I'm going to add some. So we were trying to get that color depth, and my lightest color is this color, and I need a dark color. And so I found this like Death Korps Drab, but it's basically a really dark green. And I'm going to use it for like mold. I'm going to make a mold color on all of this stuff. The farther away something is, the darker it is, the more non-distinct it is. And so having the bottom of the wall be darker, I mean, it's not like super dark, but it's just drab green. And is going to make it easier it's going to just make it seem more natural. Like you'll be looking at it from above, and it's going to look more natural that it seems to get darker as it goes down. Now remember that the primary function of this mold is to create dark areas and almost like shadowy kind of darkness on this wall, and to make the whole thing just seem a little more, you know, foreboding. And I'm kind of framing it a little bit with this green. Because I'm going to put a little green up here on this part right here to kind of create some shading up here. There. Now it's terrible. This is a dungeon, man. This isn't like My Little Pony dungeon. This is the dungeon. This is the bad dungeon. So there. Get that done. All right, now I'm getting down to it. I've gotten all these floor pieces are painted, and I'm going to try to make them look like a set. Now, they weren't all painted at the same time or even on the same day, because I'm doing this as a hobby and that's not what I was going to do. They were all painted using the same pattern, but as you can see, they don't look exactly the same. And that's not really a problem because of what I was doing, but I need to look at them now and make them look like a set. So these are the ones that we just did together, okay? This one, these I'm just looking at the floor tiles right now. This one, and this one, and this one, okay? Now they actually look pretty good. I do think that I'm going to work through make the green on these cross pieces so that you have the space, define the spaces a little darker. I think that adds something to it and throws and gets the your eye off of the fact that they're definitely different pieces. I'm also thinking I'm going to make these borders right here between the pieces also be in the dark green. When I finish painting the green lines, I'm going to go back with the green and make them a little less regular. Then I'm going to get the purple and that yellowish brown and dab them in the squares to make all of those colors come together. I've got a bunch of walls plugged in, as you can see, and I'm trying to decide if I'm going to leave these top rims purple or if I'm going to make them the drab green that we used as lines in the bottom. Now here's the reason that I'm considering leaving it purple, because there are other sets of this stuff and they will be in other themes, and you know, you're in the purple zone when you're in this one. And I'm wondering if that would be better to see the purple on the tops. Now, the other way to think about it is that I think that my eye naturally expects, the way this pattern is, my eye is being kind of trained to expect the boundaries to be this dark green color, which is why I've done a few of these in dark green just to try to like decide how I feel about it. I think I'm going to go with the dark green. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. All right. I'm going to let that dry, and then we're going to take a look at something else. Okay, I let this sit for a couple of days because something was bugging me about it. When I look at it, it just doesn't look right. And I've come to the conclusion it's because the floor is lighter than the walls. Now, from your perspective, I've got a camera light right there, and it's lighting this surface pretty well. But under normal circumstances, all the light is coming straight down in the middle of the table about right here, right? And so this, I mean, it's always going to get more light on the floor because of where I actually look at it than on the walls. And that's fine. I just need to work around that. And I need this floor to be a lot darker than the walls so that it looks right in together. So I did an experiment with a wash, and it came out like this. The main thing you'll notice between these two right here is that this one is got the white cracks and this one doesn't, okay? Now after I did the wash, I had to go back and put in some highlights, but because basically I had to put some of the color back in because it made everything a little grayer, right? But mostly what a wash does is like a super thin paint, and it's designed to run down in the cracks. It's to bring out the detail of a model by simply making the recesses darker. And this is actually made by the Army Painter. It's called Army Painter Quickshade, and it is dark tone. They did not actually have a black, they just had dark tone, which is fine. I'm literally just trying to make it darker, so a dark tone should do exactly what I want it to do. So let me just kind of reinforce what I'm talking about if you're not quite sure if I'm right about this. And you still may not agree with me, but let me just walk you through my thought process. You see this little guy right here? Here's another one. These are my two little adventurers on my little campaign. You see them in front, when you're looking at them, you're actually seeing them in front of the floor because of where you sit. Like you can pick them up and look at them, but you really see them in front of the floor because you're seeing them from the top mostly. So the background to them is actually the floor, okay? When you look at him with his light spots and his dark spots, he really doesn't read very well. When I say read, like to be able to see him very well, it's hard to see him. It's almost like he's camouflaged. That's probably a good way to describe it. It's like he's camouflaged in front of that floor because of the way that floor is designed. Now watch when I move him over here. He is much easier to see. You might say he pops. Some people would say that they would use the word pops. He pops better when you put him in front of the dark floor. As a matter of fact, it's very obvious that both of these characters, remember I said I prime in white with characters and I was priming in a darker color for my background because I wanted it to be in the background? This is exactly the kind of look that I was trying to get to. So what I need to do is fill in all the cracks on this one, right? So the best way to do that is with the wash. Another note about this, you don't want to do a wash on something that you just painted because it will stain the other color like real bad, okay? You want to wait at least, I like to wait 24 hours before I try to do a wash. If it gets too dark, you can always just add water, right? Just wipe it off. It wipes off just like it wipes on. My friends, we are getting down to it. This is the final stages of this project. I've laid out all my wall pieces and I'm trying to look at them and make sure they look like a set. I've got all the colors that I used. I'm going to start with the purple and touch up the purple. Then I'm going to go back and touch up, because if I paint over the yellow and the green, then I've got to go put back on yellow and green so it'll look right. So I don't have a lot of touching up to do. I just like to kind of just make sure before I finish them, because the only step to do after this is to put like sealant over them so they don't get chipped. One thing I noticed when I had all the pieces together is that the little cracks on the walls don't show a lot because of the fact that you're above them. So I don't need to worry about them being so light. I'm actually going to leave it and just have use that as kind of like some detail if you're getting your eye down there to look at it up close. I'm not going to put a wash on these. A lot of what I'm doing here is called dry brushing. And that's when you have so little paint on your brush that like you would think that it wouldn't do anything. But in fact, there's a little bit on there. And you're able to put it on very thin. What I found myself doing as I went through this last touch-up is I realized that in adding all the texture, I had really taken a lot of the purple out, and I just put a lot of the purple back in. I don't think I'm going to need a whole lot, because I'm dry brushing, I'm not going to need a whole lot of touching up with the other colors. Here we are at the end of this little project. I think it turned out really nice. I'm excited. I think it looks great. I think it looks like if I put this in front of my friends, they're going to say that looks like a fun game. I've used some figures just to kind of get a better feel of it, create a little more flavor. These are some figures from a game called Myth. But yeah, I think it came out good. And I've got some other ones, some other terrain from this same company. I was thinking about doing the torture chamber next, and it would kind of somehow move off from this. I did create a map using all of the pieces from it. There are these clips I have clips that look like this, that have a hole in the middle so that the wall peg will go in that hole. I have some side clips so that the edges can be finished looking and they don't have they just go halfway basically and hold the wall on. I have these clips that have a bump in the middle instead of a hole for the hallways, so that you don't have holes in the middle of your hallways. And I also have some clips. You can go to a second level, and these clips have a hanging down part so that you could have a second level, but I didn't really do that for this. I just wanted to kind of get a look at the colors and the layout, and I'm just really happy with it. I think that it did exactly what I hoped it would do. And I hope you enjoyed taking this journey with me. Thank you. And if you would like to see more videos like this, please leave a message in the comments. Like and subscribe. I'm kind of experimenting right now with making videos, and I'm not entirely sure what kind of videos. Right now I'm just doing it for fun, so I'm gonna just kind of jump around. I might do an unboxing, I might do a board game review. I'm a math teacher, so I might just do some lessons in math on my channel, because right now, again, I'm just experimenting with making videos. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching, and see you next time. Do good unto all, recommended more especially to the households of the faithful. Bye-bye.